My guest today is Dena DeRose, vocalist, pianist, educator, complete package, and just amazing success recently. And it's such a treat to have her. And we're actually talking to Austria because she teaches at the Kunstuniversity in Graz there since several years. So welcome, Dena.
Thank you, Monica. Great to be here on Zoom.
Great to have you on.
It's really great to see you again.
So we want to talk today about this new recording that you have out, "Ode to the Road," which seems like such an ironic
I
name right
know.
now.
I did not see it coming. Wow. I mean, we recorded it last October. We were way far from where we are now. So
And
yeah.
I'm sure there were many release tours set up and all kinds of cool things.
Yeah.
So before we'll actually go into that first tune first, the "Ode to the Road," cool swinging trio tune. Give us a little synopsis about your musical background and history.
I don't remember anything before music. I mean, I started piano lessons at 3.5 and continued piano and organ lessons until I was about 18 with pretty much I had basically two different teachers, two incredibly beautiful, elderly at the time women. And Mrs. Midjo was my first teacher. My mom had taken me around the town to find a teacher, and nobody wanted to take me because I was very small, my hands were small, and everyone said she's too young. And Mrs. Midjo just took me in, taught me how to read. I went through book after book, and then finally she said, maybe about a year or so after studying with her, she said, I can't do anymore. And that's about the time that I was going to kindergarten. And I went to Catholic school right across the street from where I lived in Binghamton, New York, St. John's. And the nuns would provide piano lessons. So my mom said, okay, we go there. I started some lessons there, but the nuns mainly, I mean, most kids that were taking lessons were beginning. And I had already gone through first lessons in Bach. I was just bored to death with the lessons. My mom could see that. She would sit out and listen to my lessons. She knew. So about 6 months of that, and that was over. So she found another teacher, and then I continued, and that one didn't work either. But she found the next one, which I had from almost the next 10 years or more, Mrs. Lovell. Got into public school. By the time I was 10, my mom realized that Catholic school didn't provide enough opportunity for me musically and my brother who was into sports. We moved over to a public school and boom, I got into playing percussion in the concert band and played piano for the choir, and I was called the organ girl because back then I was a little bit more into organ. 5th grade through 12th grade, I played percussion and a lot of mallet percussion, timpani, played in the Binghamton Youth Symphony with John Hollenbeck actually, because I grew up in an area
Wow.
where we were, we were all in the same high school. Sherry was in Endicott, Sherry Miracle, and John Hollenbeck and I, and Steve Davis, the trombonist, and Chris Jensen, the tenor player, and Tony Cadlick, the trumpet player. All of us were in the same high school, Binghamton High School. So we had a lot of opportunity, and our teachers were these guys. They were only men teaching at that time. They were sort of like, they came through the jazz, and we had stage band, and we had concert band, and I even played mallet percussion, marching band. And so I tried to really be in every single thing that had music. By the time I was in junior high school, I think I was about 13 or 14, I got into some friends that said, let's jam. So we went over to their house and we jammed. And back then it was more pop music, and we played. And the drummer and the trumpet player, their father, top 40 band and wedding band in the Binghamton area, right? And they heard us. Tony Cadlick was in our band too. He played trumpet, tenor, he played soprano, guitar. He did all these things, and we all sang, and that was sort of my first experience sort of singing, but I didn't really like it because I wasn't very good. And the father, his band was 2 years booked ahead. He'd get calls all the time. So he said, hey kids, you want some work? So we were booked Friday night, twice on Saturday, sometimes on Sunday. 13 years old. I mean, for about 4 years, we were a band, Continued for about a year, got a chance to go on the road with a pop band. We were going to be rock stars, Toured the States, mainly the East Coast and mid Mississippi, all the way through Tennessee, all that area, decided that that was not why I got into music, to be a jukebox. Because people would say, yeah, you guys are great, but we can't sing along, because we would make these cool arrangements of the pop Madonna and Bill and all the hit, Michael Jackson, all those hits then, top 40 band mainly, top 40 show band, they called it. And our big thing was to get to Vegas or Atlantic City, I mean, we had no idea really, but we had goals. That was the main thing, was just to keep going and keep learning. And during that time, I learned music in the pop and rock and country and Motown and all those styles. I learned it from listening to the records. So when I decided that that wasn't really for me, and that jazz really did, the minute I heard these records putting those music, that music away, I felt something great. I felt something, a connection to that music. So that's why I decided to get out of pop, go into jazz. Had some problems as I was practicing. I kept feeling something. It got worse. Finally, I had to stop playing and just give it a rest. I went to acupuncturists. I went to everything you could think of to figure out what the problem was. And most of them said, just rest. So I would rest, and still I'd go back and play after 3 months, and it was still hurting. So I found a doctor, and he said carpal tunnel syndrome. So we're looking at like 1988, 89. And at that time, carpal tunnel was popular. So he just said, okay, let's operate. And it took me about 6 months to even decide to even operate. Like I just wanted to be a pianist. I wasn't even singing really yet, other than backup, in bands. So I had it done, the carpal tunnel. 3 months later, started playing again. Still had a lot of pain. Took a break. I was so depressed. I would go out and see my former teacher, Doug Beardsley, and his trio play. And one night he said, Dena, come up here and sing a song. And I'm like, Doug, I don't sing. So he says, come up and sing. And I got up and sang, I don't know, Our Love Is Here to Stay, I think it was. And I didn't know the words. He says, I got a vocal reel book, And a hometown audience, very supportive. I had the reel book in one arm, and I had the mic here, and I sang Our Love Is Here to Stay. And the minute I sang, I wasn't that good, believe me. My pitch was all over the place. I didn't know, anything. Everybody clapped, I finished, and he said, sing another one. And I'm like, I started flipping through the book, and sang another one. I don't know what it was, but I sat down after that, and I sat at the bar, and behind the bar, the bottles are up there, and there's glass behind it. And I could see my face. I'm looking at myself, and I said, because I felt so good. The minute I sang Our Love Is Here to Stay, I remember it, the first chorus, and then I turned around and listened to Doug solo, and I had been out of music for almost 6 months at this point. I even took like day jobs and shit, like answering phones at a place where they make closets, or whatever. And I said to myself, maybe I should get some voice lessons, because that felt so nice to be part of music again. And if I can't play, then maybe if I learn how to sing, I can sing. So I did that. I studied for about 2.5 years with a great vocal technician, she called herself. Learned mainly classical technique, of course. Back then, that's all there was. Started to book myself as a singer with Doug, my former teacher's trio. Worked 6, 7 nights a week in Binghamton at that time. It was just, we made gigs, we created them. And when my hand was still a mess, I found another doctor in New York. He said it was arthritis in this part of my finger, this joint that connects to the wrist bone. They operated. It took me still 4 or 5 months to decide that. And it was in New York, and it was expensive, and there was no pre-existing conditions covered then. So I had to work and make money, and had it done. When the cast came off, the doctor said, your therapy is to play. The floodgates open. I was just crying with happiness. So, of course, there's, some therapy, pinch grips, and all these things I had to do. But when I decided to move to New York at 25 years old, I still had this debt, but I had about $600 saved to move to New York. And I just did it. And I paid them $50 a month or $100, whatever I could afford, and paid it off over time. Had a lot of gigs. And I went as a piano player singer, and I just tried to get work, had tons of work. New York at that time was a very good, I'm lucky, because now it's a different city when it comes to getting gigs and stuff. I just started building my repertoire, doing a lot of solo gigs, but then I played Danny's Grand Sea Palace. It was a Thai restaurant on 46th Street. behind it was Danny's Skylight Room, and it was a cabaret room mainly. You know, people like Carol Sloan, many, many, many very good singers, more cabaret style, but they had jazz musicians in their bands. So Jay Lenhart on bass, Ron McClure, Dennis Irwin, all these really great musicians, and some drummers, but horn players. And so they would come out from behind the cabaret room and have to walk through where I was playing. And then Ron would bring his bass out and he'd just start playing with me, and Jay Lenhart and all these really, you know, Sean Smith. I mean, it's many, many players. So I got to know a lot of the jazz people just having that gig. That was one of my first gigs when I moved there. Times now are maybe a little different for students, especially I noticed that having moved here almost 15 years ago now, in Europe in general, it's not the same. The students don't have the opportunity to actually gig as much as some of us, my generation in New York. So,
Oh, absolutely. You know,
yeah.
and you have an amazing story, and I want to talk about that some more, but I want to sneak in a piece of music.
I try to condense it, sorry, but yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, I mean it's just a mind-boggling story, and it's so important to hear, because one thing, you know, you can hear out of your story is that drive. You had to do music no matter what. It was just built in, you know, and despite the biggest hurdles, anything that came your way, you persisted and got through somehow and found path. You know, maybe that's a good setup to this first tune, Ode to the Road. I mean, here's somebody who definitely paid their dues. You have this really, really great band that you've been working with for quite a while, with Martin Wind on bass and Matt Wilson on drums, which is another really cool thing to have, you know, people you work with on a regular basis. So before we listen to this specific one, any background info that would help us?
I met Mark Murphy, who wrote the lyrics to this, in New York in the late 90s. We just hit it off right away. He's quirky, and I'm sort of not, but I loved that about him. I mean, I can be quirky, but he was out of his mind in a great, beautiful way. And I just loved that. Just before I moved to Graz in 2006, I had asked him, you know, like, have recorded some of your own lyrics. And I knew he wrote lyrics, and I wasn't really into writing lyrics then, but I liked that, you know, about him. I just asked him, could I have some of your charts or whatever? He had his representative at the time, agent or something. They sent me a whole envelope of tunes of his, and Ode to the Road happened to be in there. And what a great song by Alan Broadbent, an amazing pianist and arranger and composer. I played through these songs and loved, of course, all of them. And everything takes time. In some ways, I had to grow into these tunes. They're not easy. And at the time, I was still, you know, I love the Great American Songbook and all that. But these past couple of, say, 3 or 4 or 5 years, I've tried to delve a little further into compositions by some great people that maybe aren't so well known. Actually, the only other recording I think of Ode to the Road is of Mark. And I thought for this CD, of course, didn't have the title of the CD when I chose this tune yet, but it was one song, like his other one on the CD, Don't Ask Why, that I just liked the lyric, I liked the tune, I liked the swing, you know, everything worked, and it just seemed like the time that I could actually connect with the tune. Mark will love him forever because it was just so great. Our relationship really grew in these last years of his life. I wish I'd known him in his early years, but I really sort of got him, and we connected, and Matt and Martin and I were supposed to record with Mark, and then everything sort of, his health just tumbled, and yeah, it never happened. So for me, it's sort of an ode to the road. It's also an ode to Mark in a way, because it would have been wonderful to actually record that tune with him.
That's a good way to listen to it. So let's do that. So here's Ode to the Road, performed on the Ode to the Road release on High Notes with Dena DeRose. With Dena DeRose, Martin Wind on bass, and Matt Wilson on drums. So enjoy this very special tribute in so many ways.
Gotta learn all this traveling code. Grab your axe as you have your load. Then step lively, my friend, 'cause there just ain't no end to this old the road. those oats you sowed. You can't say if you only knowed. Should have paid lots more heed to my musical need as it showed. The road, music schools teach you those tunes and them modes. But this life's more than just that. It's a treadmill of sounds, and they lead everywhere, my friend. So remember, there ain't no end. It's just backaches and cramps, no sleep, but then vamp to this ode, to the road. It's a treadmill of sounds, and they lead everywhere, my friend. So remember, there ain't no end. It's just backaches and cramps, no sleep, but then vamp to this ode. Ode to the road.
That was Ode to the Road, as performed by the Dena DeRose trio with Martin Winter on bass and Matt Wilson on drums on their newest High Note release. What you can hear is this innate sense of swing. We heard just how Dena described her path into being a vocalist, but also being a pianist first. And sometimes in jazz, we have this dichotomy. There's the vocalist versus the instrumentalist, which it shouldn't be, but there's something that changes the dynamics in a group, you know, once a vocalist is in front versus the instrumentalist. But you are both in one, very masterfully so. We'll keep listening to some more of your selections from this CD, but let's talk a little bit about your musical process of, you know, we just heard this was a Mark Murphy tune. It was giving to you as this very special tribute, and the next one we'll listen to is Nothing Like You, and it actually features Jeremy Peld on it. So tell us a little bit how you put those tunes together for the recording.
Again, it really was about a week before High Note needed the title that I came up with it. I think throughout the whole process, I was sort of thinking about the fact that I'm on the road a lot. I was really on the road for like really the last 21 years. 1999 is when I was living in New York that I started to come to Europe, started to travel, even the States more, and on the road, right? And when it came to thinking about who I would like on the CD, of course, Matt and Martin are my first choice. It's been with Matt 23 or 24 years we've been playing together almost. And with Martin, I think we're going on like 17 since 2004. So whatever that is. Jeremy is someone, he was on my sort of tribute to Shirley Horn. I just always love his playing. I just thought I have to have him on this one, you know. And he's one that I've never played with here in Graz. We haven't really played with each other on the road like in Europe or anything, but when I go back to New York, he's one that I try to call. Hopefully he's available. So for me, that's being on the road. I go to New York, back to my other home, and he's there, and we hit. Houston Person is also on this recording. Great legend. I mean, he's just, there's nobody playing like Houston. He's someone that I had some experience on the road with. We were on the road just in the last, say, I think it was 3 years ago, through Spain and France. And my agent here in Barcelona, Jordi Sunyol, thought to put that group together. So my Spanish trio with Houston. And we had such an amazing time. And Houston, I've played with him also at the West Coast Jazz Party, the Jazz Cruise, and many other things. So it was always on the road. I had to have him on this. And then Sheila Jordan. We never really did a gig other than in my own home where I sometimes have house concerts. And of course, I've brought her back because she started the vocal program here at the KUG, Kunstuniversität in Graz, so the Music and Performing Arts University here in Graz. She started the vocal program back in the late 80s. I'm now teaching here since 2006. Probably 2007 or 8, we brought her back. A couple years later, we brought her back again and would play for the classes, the master classes she gave. And the first time I experienced Sheila was when I lived in New York, and Ray Galland, a great pianist, he would have me sub for her class at City College. So that was my first experience with Sheila. And here, she was on the road. And maybe I wasn't, but it's still an ode to the road in a way. So and Sheila and I have grown closer these last, 13 years. We even gave her an honorary sort of a big honor here at the university. Her name is engraved in gold right under Joe Zawinul. It was a big deal, and it's wonderful, and all the students love her, and I love her, and she's just an inspiration beyond inspirations I've ever had in my life. She's 92 or something this year, and before the corona, she's been on the road all the time. I mean, when she came here, she was in Japan the week before, and then she went home for a day and then flew over here, and then from here, she went over to Germany and wherever. So I mean, she's just an inspiration, and she's so uplifting and encouraging to students. I learned a lot about teaching from her, even when I played for her classes at City College. So having these guests, really, it's a different kind of ode to the road, but it's all within the umbrella of playing with them. I did play with Sheila here a couple times, other gigs, but I had to have her on this. I asked her, and of course she said, "Oh, I would love to, great," and to sing with her, it was like, oh my God.
Yeah, we'll get to hear that. So that'll be our grand finale, because it's also the grand finale of the disc. But that makes sense, that this ode to all the mentors and the people that brought you here. And that's something in jazz that's especially true. That's how it always was learned and transmitted from mentors sharing with their students. It's not something you learn from books and from. Let's listen to Nothing Like You, which features Jeremy Pelt.
The key to this was when I lived in New York, I'd drive up, the Deer Head Inn and do gigs. And I think almost every time I played there, which maybe was a couple handfuls of times in my whole lifetime, because it's sort of on the way to my hometown, Binghamton. You know, I go on the same I-80 right up through there, through the Poconos, and I would stop off sometimes and just do a gig. And Bob would be there, and he was another one, a very supportive guy, and being a singer pianist also, he
Right.
loved, you know, just supporting that. And I grew up in the 70s listening to Schoolhouse Rock. Every Saturday morning it came on, and many times it was either, you know, Shelton or, of course, Bob DeRose and his songs that he composed for that. I'm just a bill on Capitol Hill. And it was just like,
From
man, this
Junction,
guy,
Junction.
yeah, I just loved him. And I
Yeah,
just thought he
yeah,
was so cool. And he had the ponytail
yeah.
and all this, you know, when I was younger, I was like, man, what a hip guy. You know, and this song was one that I had heard, you know, some years before and everything. And I heard him even perform it in New York. And I always thought, wow, it's just a cool tune. And somehow I came across it again and thought, okay, again, it's not an easy tune. It goes through almost every key, I think. No, many keys. But, you know, it was just very challenging for so long. And I don't know, you just have to sort of grow into some of these songs. And that was one of them. So Nothing Like You. And there is no one like Bob.
Well, let's pay tribute to Bob DeRose. So here's Nothing Like You featuring Jeremy Pelt with the Dena DeRose trio from the High Note 2020 High Note release, Ode to the Road. Here we go.
Nothing like you has ever been seen before. Nothing like you existed in days of yore. Never were lips so kissable, never were eyes so bright. I can't believe it's possible, you bring me such delight. Nothing can match the rapture of your embrace. Nothing can catch the magic that's in your face. You're like a dream come true, something completely new. Nothing like you has ever been seen before. Nothing like you has ever been mine before. Kisses I've known, but none so divine before. No one has your magnificence, who can describe your charms? I'd like to make my residence forever in your arms. I never knew how wonderful life could be. No one but you could ever do this to me. Call me a fool in love, one thing I'm certain of, nothing like you has ever been seen before. Nothing like you, nothing like you, nothing like you has ever been seen before. like you has ever been mine before. Kisses I've known, but none so divine before. No one has your magnificence. Who can describe your charms? I'd like to make my residence forever in your arms. I never knew how wonderful life could be. No one but you could ever do this to me. Call me a fool in love. One thing I'm certain of, nothing like you has ever been seen before. Nothing like you, nothing like you, nothing like you has ever been seen. Nothing like you has ever been seen. Nothing like you has ever been seen before.
That was Nothing Like You, performed by Dena DeRose with her trio featuring Jeremy Pelt from the new High Note release, Ode to the Road. Swinging, swinging tunes. The first two, we talked about how they were by special mentors, written, performed by special people. Now here is a super classic that you put on. So The Way We Were, I mean, everybody's first thought is Barbra Streisand, right?
I'm a big Barbra Streisand
That's a
fan.
challenge, right, to take that on. You know, if you have such an iconic rendition of the song, of course, I mean, you want to take it on, but you have to find a mindset to say, well, I have something unique to say there, right?
When I was 7, I got my first organ, and I remember getting this book from the music store, 70s hits or whatever. I remember playing that on the organ at like 7, 8, 9 years old, and I would play it and just cry. I mean, it was just so beautiful. And I think I tried to sing it a little bit. It was more in my head. I was singing, but I was mainly playing. It's just been one of my all-time favorite songs, period. And of course, Barbra Streisand. I just love her. Anyhow, the tour that I had with Houston, and we were playing Duke de Lombard in Paris and San Sebastian in Spain, the festival, and different things. But the clubs that we played, we would play little more subtle tunes. Festival, you got to keep it up, and all that stuff. I remember when he pulled out The Way We Were. I'm looking at all his charts, all the jazz tunes, nice songs. He always picks great songs. And then there's The Way We Were. And I'm like, Houston, The Way We Were? And he said, oh yeah, baby. And I'm like, okay, let's do it. This is one of my favorite songs, right? First time we played it, I was crying as he's playing it because there's no one playing like him. He plays like a singer on the saxophone, in a bluesy that kind of way, that generational kind of way of playing. We got the next day, I think we were at Duke de Lombard like 3 nights in a row. The next day we get there, and he always likes to change up the songs, At sound check, Houston, can we do The Way We Were again? Oh yeah, baby. It is the same answer like every time. We almost did it every night of the tour. It was about a 2-week tour, other than the festivals, because sometimes, we even did it, I think, at San Sebastian, a very outdoor daytime thing. People loved it. And I was just totally thrilled to have an opportunity to play with really a jazz icon, playing The Way We Were. When it came time for the CD and I thought of having Houston, I said, we got to do The Way We Were. When I called him, and he goes, oh yeah, baby. And so we get into the studio and we record it. And then he's talking to Matt and Martin over on the other side of the room, and I hear that he says, well, and it's pouring outside at the studio. We were in Teaneck Studios out in Teaneck, New Jersey.
I recorded that too, Teaneck Sound. Yeah.
Teaneck Sound, yeah.
Yes.
Dave Kowalski, I'm the engineer, great guy. Well, I'm going to have to drive home tonight. And then tomorrow I got to drive early in the morning back out to Newark and get on a flight to go to California. And I'm like, and he lives way out like in the beginning of Long Island, he drove all the way to Teaneck to record one song. I didn't know that he would have to drive back to Jersey the next day. It's okay, we have to do another one now. That was the last minute call, was Days of Wine and Roses. The Way We Were, thanks to Houston.
It makes you cry. I can still see you.
I'm already getting teary, but thanks to Houston for bringing that back to my life.
Well, I think that's a beautiful, beautiful setup. Just go back imagine Barbara Streisand movie, get in tears and hear a beautiful, beautiful rendition by Dena DeRose featuring.
And it's the same
person.
key that Houston played it in, F. That's, I think, another reason why I was, again, thinking of doing it, because my key that he played it in, it just worked out. It just seemed like it should happen.
And I'm glad it did happen. So here it is, The Way We Were, featuring Houston Person with the Dena DeRose trio from her latest release, Ode to the Road, on high notes.
Memories light the corners of my mind. Misty watercolored memories of the way we were. Scattered pictures of the smiles we left behind, smiles we gave to one another for the way we were. Can it be that it was all so simple then? Or has time rewritten every line? If we had the chance to do it all again, tell me, would we? Could we? Maybe beautiful and yet what's too painful to remember, we simply choose to forget. So it's the laughter the way we were. Can it be that it was all so simple then? Or has time rewritten every line? chance to do it all again, tell me, would we? Could we? Memories may be beautiful and yet what's too painful to remember? We simply choose to forget. So it's the laughter we will remember whenever we remember. The way we were.
That was The Way We Were, rendition by Dena DeRose with her trio, featuring used in person on her 2020 High Note release, Ode to the Road. Thank you so much, Dena. That was so special. So, we talked about tributes to the masters. We talked about our great inspirations. Now, the next one, cross me off your list, and which is going to feature Jeremy Pelt again. This is more like the storytelling song type. That's kind of a different approach. That's more the vocalist being the one. It's like the troubadour. Telling a story or something that happens. Give us a little more background about that song.
Well, this was first an instrumental song by Al Cohn. I believe he called it No More. I didn't know for a long time. When we say no more, really, I've had enough. I just thought it meant no more. But actually, when I did the research, it's no, comma, M-O-O-R-E, more, as in a woman he was dating, and her last name was Moore, and I guess they broke up. So these three people put lyrics to this, and they kept the title No More, but it really is like no more, I don't want any more. It's not really M-O-O-R-E, but they took that and put it in the lyric. So it's like, cross me off your list. This is where the story ends. It's like, it's a breakup, kind of tune. But the tune itself is so fucking swinging. Sorry. And I've done it for years on gigs. It's sort of my closer, in a way. I don't know. I remember, I think we played Birdland last year or whatever, and Jeremy was on the gig. He just ripped it. I just remember it was either there or when I played at Mesro. I can't remember. We did a duo there one night, and he liked the tune too. When it came time to do the recording, I hadn't recorded this song on a label. I recorded it on I did a hometown gig in Binghamton with Sherry Merrick, it was John Hollenbeck and Steve Davis, and a lot of us sort of that generation. We had two drummers. We played this tune there, and it was recorded live and only put out to raise money for the theater there that we played in. So it never really had any legs. It never didn't get out. Then I thought, okay, it might be time to actually put it on a CD. So I did, and I had to have Jeremy, because Jeremy, he's someone that can play so many styles so well, And styles, meaning styles of songs, meaning he can play a ballad, and when you hear him playing, it's like he's singing through his horn, you know? I mean, the melodies, and it's sort of like Roy Hargrove is like that. When they play ballads, it's like he's singing, you know? And then when he plays these swinging tunes, he can just rip. You know, I just love it, and swing so hard, and everything he does on the trumpet, I just love. So I had to have, I asked him to play on this. You know, my recordings, I think there's only been one of 13 or 14 recordings I've done where I actually rehearsed. I think it was in 2000 for a record I did, I Can See Clearly Now. All my other CDs, we just go in the studio and we just take a take. We don't even rehearse it really. Maybe we talk about it for a minute. Okay, you take the first solo, we take a take. And then maybe we take a second, and maybe a third, but it always ends up being the first or second takes. And Jeremy, you know, when he took the soul on this one, I think this was the first take. We left that, we said, let's go in and listen, you know? And we went in and it was just like, that's the one. He's just so swinging. And of course, Matt, all his everything, Martin, just laying it down so strongly, and the groove is so heavy. And it's easy for me with Matt and Martin, when they have such a connection as a bass player and a drummer, when they connect so deeply, they've many opportunities to play together. They've been Bill Mays's rhythm section for longer than me. So when they connect, I can just lay on it.
The time and developing the tunes with this interaction on the bandstand, and I think that's even much more than rehearsing. That's actually creating the music. I mean, there's no need to go back and do that, right?
And that's what's slightly different about our students here and the ones I find in Europe, is that everybody has projects and they rehearse and rehearse and rehearse. They don't gig that much, but they rehearse a lot. And then they go in the studio and they do it. My generation, our generation, tends to, and many generations before us, almost the history of jazz, goes on the road with it, gets it all started, the fruition of doing it over and over and changing things and blah, 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 working through things. And then you go in the studio and you record it. I mean, that to me, that is still my process. That's how most of these songs, not all of them, almost half the record was not done on the road. They were made basically for this recording. Thought of, I rehearsed it myself, but then we got together and just, again, no rehearsal, because one, the arrangements aren't particularly that difficult. It's not like odd time signature stuff or anything, but feel good, swing down the middle, make it happen. And when you have the right people, it comes together.
Feel good, swing. That's exactly what we're going to get right now.
Yeah.
So this is Cross Me Off Your List. It features Jeremy Pelt. Again, the Dena DeRose trio from her latest release, Ode to the Road, on High Note Records. Go swing along.
Cross me off your list, this is where the story ends. If you're smart, you won't stop me from leaving. It's never gonna be just like it was before, no more. Go and don't look back, we'll make believe we're friends. Now I'm wise, no more sighs, no more grieving. But I don't want you hanging round my front door no more. We had our fling, we had our thing, we had our fun. So don't regret it, baby, now it's done. So goodbye, good luck if you ever have the time. Drop a line, let me know how you're doing. But I won't hold my breath, I won't walk the floor no more. So cross me off your list, this is where the story ends. If you're smart, you won't stop me from leaving. 'Cause it's never gonna be just like it was before. No more. Go and don't look back, we'll make believe we're friends. Now I'm wise, no more sighs, no more grieving. But I don't want you hanging round my front door no more. We had our fling, we had our thing, we had our fun. So don't regret it, baby, now it's done. So goodbye, good luck if you ever have the time. Drop a line, let me know how you're doing. But I won't hold my breath, I won't walk the floor no more.
That was Cross Me Off Your List, featuring Jeremy Pelt from the Dena DeRose recording Ode to the Road on High Note, freshly released in 2020. We got time for one more, and this is the tune that features the legendary Sheila Jordan, as you said, being 92, on the road all the time. I remember Dave Brubeck did that too till the very end in his high 90s. And he said, I have this obligation to my band, to my musician, to get them work. I mean, this whole work ethic that we just can't imagine anymore. So, and then we started talking earlier a little bit about your relationship with Sheila Jordan, that she founded actually the vocal program at the Kunst University, at the Jazz Institute there, which I got to visit with some students a few times too. It's just a really, really wonderful program, and not just a leading program in Europe. If you look at the Downbeat Awards every year, the student award, you'll find at least a handful that come out of Graz, and there's a reason to it. So you've been there for 15 years, I believe, leading the vocal program.
Finishing my 14th year.
The 14th
2006.
year.
Our Coug Jazz Institute is the oldest jazz institute in Europe. And about a year later, Cologne came. And then Amsterdam and all of them came, one after another. Mm-hmm. And now there are quite a few. But we have been known as more of the foundational schools. But mainly we call it foundational because we really give people a very good foundation. Yet we go through almost all the way to the modern. We have many different ensembles, 3 different big bands. I have a jazz choir every few years, and mainly I teach one-on-one lessons. And when I moved here, like you said earlier, it's a sort of a work ethic. I like to work. I'm a working bee, and I know that through working, I grow.
So we'll close with All God's Children Got Rhythm, and it's actually a really fun way how you put 2 tunes together, right? Which is a tradition of jazz.
I give it up to Sheila on this one. Actually, on both songs. So we're also on Small Day Tomorrow on this. I give it up to her because I asked Sheila, what do you want to do? I've been doing this song recently and I haven't recorded it yet. But how about if we do All God's Chillin', Little Willie Leaps? Because she wrote some of the lyrics to that with a couple of guys. She was writing Skeeter Betts and all these guys that wrote lyrics back then. And then she wrote these lyrics a long time ago. And I said, okay. I knew All God's Children, but Little Willie Leaps, I think I learned it like 25 years ago. I had to like bone up on it, listen to it. And she said, okay. And I said to her, well, how about if I sing All God's Children? Because I knew that one better. And because she does such a great job and she wrote the lyrics on the other Little Willie Leaps. Right. So, and then she said, I'll sing that over you. And I went, okay. We did not rehearse. We went in the studio and that's the first take. I just sort of put the arrangement together. It's a very simple arrangement, but just put the order of events together. And she just came in, did it. It was like so fun. So I have to give that up to her. That was her idea.
What a master. That's been really fun today. And I thank you so much for sharing. And it's so much more fun to listen to those tunes, imagining how they got created, So we should imagine ourselves going into the studio right now out there in T-Nex Sound. And there comes in Sheila, and we have just a few notes on, let's do this and let's do this. And we'll hit the button. And what you'll hear in a second is what comes out the first time. That's really masters.
Thank you, Monica. This is a wonderful concept for a show. I really appreciate you asking me to do this. So thank you.
I appreciate you tuning in all the way from Austria, and good luck to us all. Let's hope
Yes.
we are all on the road again very soon and can do what we love and develop that music the way we do. Thank you, Dena. Let's go on out on All God's Children Get Rhythm together with Little Willie Leap featuring Sheila Jordan, Dena DeRose, Martin Wind, and Matt Wilson on the drums from the Ode to the Road release on High Note Record. Enjoy.
All God's children got rhythm. All God's children got swing. Ain't got money and we ain't got shoes. We got rhythm, chase away the blues. All God's children got troubles. Troubles don't mean a thing. When we start to sing, troubles fade away. All God's children got bebop. When I spoke to you today, my heart began to stray to you. My love, and so sweet with you, my love, and as we danced, my heart began to do a number. Wonder why it beats so. I guess I really knew because I fell in love with you and knew I really couldn't tell myself to believe what my eyes had said to me. And as we danced, it seemed like a chorus of violins played with music in my ears. Go over the wasted years. And so I say to you, my sweet, I wish I could repeat this happy meeting, but my heart would start to grieve, and so I guess this is the best way out, because I know you don't believe me. How could you deceive me once and there would never be another one I care for like I care for you? Because to you my love is true. You spaz, because with you I thought my love would really last. These words were written many, 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 many years ago, when I used to sing with two cats in Detroit. The lyrics were written by Skeeter Spite. Well, he was one of the cats that I sang with. It's to a Miles Davis line called Little Willie Leaps. And me and Skeeter Spite and Leroy Mitchell used to bebop all night long. Tall bebop songs. Little baby.
When I spoke to you the day, my heart began to stray to you, my loving so sweet with you, my loving as we danced. My heart began to do, and I wonder why it beat so. I guess I really knew because I fell in love with you. I knew I really couldn't tell myself to beat me what my eyes had said to me. And as we danced, it seemed like a glass of violins plays their music in my ear. Go where the wasted years. And so I say to you, my sweet, I wish I could repeat this happy meeting, but my heart would start to grieve, and so I guessed this is the best way out, because I know you don't believe me. How could you deceive me once, that there would never be another one I cared for like I cared for you, because you knew my love was true. It's past, because with you I thought my love would really last. And there ain't no more.
Listening to Talking Jazz, my guest today was vocalist, pianist, educator, Dena DeRose. Tune in every Thursday at 11 a.m. and Tuesdays at 7 p.m. on WETF South Bend, Indiana, or find us online at WETFthejazzstation.org. Previous recordings of interviews and music are also available on the Monica Hersig YouTube channel under Talking Jazz. Find MONIKAHERZIG and subscribe. Thank you for listening.